This month saw England ramp up their preparations for the Euros this summer by not only sacking their captain but also their manager resigning. I'd like to kick off this section by going to our resident Englishman Ryan Sheet to get his thoughts on the Fabio Capello affair.
Welcome. I've not really got too much of an opinion on it because because I could see it.
Bring in the other Englishman.
He's in a cage somewhere. No, because I could see it happening as soon as he undermined the FA by going, actually, it's the wrong decision. There was only going to be one outcome. It was untenable, his position. So it was going to happen. Opens the door for Harry Redknapp, obviously. I think it's a foregone story. I think everyone knows the path it's going to be. England are going to go out in the last game of the group stage. And then we're all going to go, oh, this golden generation's ended. Well, it ended about 8 years ago when it failed. So I don't really like our national team, so I really don't have an opinion on it, I'm afraid.
I personally feel very sorry for Fabio Capello.
Agreed.
I think that his record is impressive, and for him to get this team to the Euros and be drawn in a very qualifiable group, and to not get the chance to do that simply because the FA decided to take it upon themselves with barely any communication to him by all accounts to remove the captain. I think that's wrong. I think the manager should have a very big say in who's captain. I think in this situation, when there's still a court case pending, I think that the FA perhaps should be involved in the decision. But to say that it's just their decision solely is ridiculous.
I personally don't think the FA should have come out saying Terry won't be captain. I believe they should have suspended Terry from all international duty, with still the assumption of innocent until proven guilty, of course, but they suspended Lee Bowyer and Jonathan Woodgate when they were up on extremely serious charges at the time. And I just think they handled the situation very well, but I think it helps when Capello obviously wanted out of the England job and the FA wanted rid of him. I think it suits all parties, to be honest.
I think it does suit all parties, and that's why it's happened. But at the same time, I mean, I know I wasn't aware of the Woodgate or Bowyer situation, but I mean, with a court case pending, I think it is completely fine to strip him of the captaincy but keep him in the team, even though I don't think John Terry would deserve to start, because the captaincy is an additional role. I mean, his job is a footballer, but to be the captain of England is an additional role with additional pressure, and to put the pressure in that situation on with a court case on it, I think it's understandable to have it stripped from him.
Completely agree with you.
But to then say, well, we're actually going to stop you playing for your country in your job when you've not been found guilty of anything.
But it's not stopping, it's suspending, because in any other job you would be suspended with full pay. Yeah. There's still the assumption of innocence, but it just takes you away from the problem areas of the whole thing. It could even be, if you take that argument as natural inclusion, that would result in Chelsea having to suspend the player as well.
Yeah, well, I mean,
because they pay his wages.
Football lives in a different sphere from the real world.
Yeah,
bizarrely enough. But going back to Capello, I think you're welcome. I think it was a bit of a shame on him, because I think he deserved, after such an impressive qualifying record, and indeed an impressive England record, full stop,
and hilarious World Cup campaign.
Well, I was happily airbrushing that, but I felt he deserved a second tournament, because things didn't go exactly to plan at World Cup 2010 for England. I think and Ryan's given me the biggest death stare I've ever felt in my life, but I think he deserved a crack at a second tournament. I think it would have been not necessarily in England's worst interest to have him lead them into a second tournament, because it's Fabio Capello. I mean,
but not just that. If he was in charge until the end of Euro 2012, it's a natural end. That's 2012. The tournament finished. It's the end of Capello's reign, and you can start afresh with nothing. Okay, the 2014 World Cup, but that's 2 years away. It gives the new manager plenty of time to bring in players and really build his own side. If Pearce is currently in charge as caretaker, which we won't get into because Stuart Pearce is an idiot. If Harry Redknapp does take over at the end of the season, he's going to have a month, with the squad, and is that really long enough for him to get his ideas across?
I think it's more because it's Harry Redknapp. Everyone's got built up an image of him as like the absolute saviour. He's got a
fuck off on Football Manager.
Come on, Wheeler Dealer.
Don't be like that!
Come on, Wheeler Dealer.
Fuck off.
I think just because it's Harry Redknapp, everyone's got this glorious image. He's going to be the saviour, and within a month, he's gonna resurrect the team, and the dressing room's going to be fully behind him. And England's going to win the Euros as we always do.
Captain Scotty.
Yeah, Captain Scotty. But I wouldn't have been adverse to Capello taking Euros. I think it, like you say, I think I agree with you. It'd been a good ending for him just to take the Euros, have the time with it. But at the end of the day, I think he didn't really care. Really, I don't think he wasn't bothered if he stayed. And it's not really.
And that's worrying when it's a £6 million a year manager, and what is a very proud job, I think, for him to almost to go on his own TV, his own nation's TV channel, and to talk about it like that. I think is highly questionable.
I think he knew maybe that if he did say those things, there's a good chance he might have been fired.
There's a strong suggestion that the Italian TV company didn't want to ask Capello about the Terry incident. That was his own people who were really pushing for those questions to be asked.
To caveat what I just said, I think there was a certain element of Capello freewheeling towards the end of his thing, but I still think he'd have been worthy of another shot. Moving on to Redknapp, I think although we've heard all the he can't be a manager, he won't be able to sign anyone. I think that Redknapp is actually very astute when it comes to. I think there was a Zona Marking piece a while ago where it showed that he is very good at sort of adapting to games as they're going on, and he's good at making changes. He can see what's going wrong during a match, and he can rectify it quite well, which is why Spurs tend to have better second halves than the first half. So I think that would be valuable.
What about when they took a 1-0 lead in the first half against Newcastle last week? All right, moving on.
I think there's so much to say about this, but I think that first of all, is Redknapp not going to have to take over part-time so that he meets the deadline of the squad announcement? Because do they not have to announce the squad quite some time in advance of a major tournament? And if he's stuck with a squad that Stuart Pearce has picked, but then would Tottenham allow him to take 2 roles?
Or the FA say, they just go, he's going to take over after the Premier League season finishes and he'll pick it.
I'm pretty sure
there's no way that could happen.
I think on the Redknapp issue, I agree with John in that I think that as much as Capello deserved another crack at Euro 2012, and certainly I think he would have. He's got them there in impressive style. I think Redknapp is the sort of manager who will be able to take over, and I think simply because English players have this thing in their mind about English managers, and everyone in the media seems to have this thing about Redknapp, I think that just mentally players will be buoyed and will actually, maybe for once, overperform under Redknapp. If there's any manager that's going to do that for English players, I think it is Redknapp. But also off that point, it's been pretty disturbing to see the media's sudden lashing out at, or just random football people saying, "Oh well, not an English manager. It was a big mistake. We always should have had an English manager," as though that was the issue that in the last competition when they were outclassed by Germany and the players didn't play against Algeria 0-0 against Algeria, as though it's because it's an Italian manager. It's 0-0 with Algeria, and it's just been we should have gone English. What, like Steve McLaren? That went well.
It's hilarious because we go from an English manager to a foreign manager. So it goes from an English manager, we need an English manager for the passion and to really get them going, and then when they fail they go, they've not got the technical nous to really understand how to deal with international teams, so we need a foreigner. They're not passionate enough. Like that. So it goes to that and that and that.
Right, but maybe this is a bigger issue, but you look at the candidates for the England job and you would think the best English managers are going to be in the English Premier League. 3 English managers, one Harry Redknapp, who we all believe I think will be the next England manager, Alan Pardew, who is only just recently returned to
who was a joke when he got the Newcastle job,
and Roy Hodgson, who I think would be the best option because he has international.
Really?
Hodgson would be the best option. Hodgson has international experience. He's managed international sides.
I agree.
He's been around. He has the kind of. It's such an an ugly little cliche to say that English managers don't have any kind of tactical nous, but Hodgson has experience of managing in different leagues, and that is a big
I
plus.
agree with you. Yeah.
I don't think it'd be a bad choice.
It would be easier to get him out of West Brom with his contract expiring at the end of the season and him failing to agree a new one so far than with Redknapp.
But you all know, because of the media build-up, it's going to be Redknapp.
And I've got to put in this because I realised what I said might have been double standards in that I was saying that, you know, that Redknapp will be able to do a very good job, but I'm disturbed by the whole English thing. I actually think that I think it's because the players have got into their heads from reading the media that an English manager is much better. Because some of them went, I mean, Rio Ferdinand didn't even say thanks Fabio, or from what for. The tweet, to be fair, the tweet that I saw was just him saying, well, what happens now? Quite a few other young players were thanking Fabio Capello for giving him the first cap and things like that. But I think the players, especially, I think it goes, I'm not switching to Andrews Villas-Boas here, but if you look at what is happening at Chelsea, the first sign of trouble, like when Lampard was getting dropped, he was moaning to the media about it, saying, "Oh, I don't know why I've been dropped." Obviously unhappy. There's clearly a rift in that dressing room. I imagine will be the English players not agreeing with what Villas-Boas is trying to do. So I think English players read the media and will just be buoyed simply because they think Redknapp is the right man for the job, whether he is or not.
Yeah, I think that as well. I think just because I don't know, like the hysteria about Harry Redknapp, they're going to believe in it. Maybe. I honestly have got no expectations for England, but that is the only thing I could maybe think of that could be a plus. That they just think because it's Harry Redknapp, oh, God, he's the saviour. Like it's not going to work like that. But you never know how footballers think, do you? So,
or if they do,
they do.
Or are we intelligent?
Well, we are. I think Dante put it best when he said. It's a game of two halves. Obviously, if Redknapp does leave, where does that leave Tottenham? I mean, they've obviously been without a manager, a new one recently. Looking for a club would be Mick McCarthy, who was sacked by Wolves.
Oh no! I've been sacked. I'm gutted.
I have no idea he'd actually been 5.5 years in charge.
5.5
years in charge. Imagine listening to those post-match interviews for 5.5 years.
I've got a hole in my bum.
Well, he's accurate. He's factually accurate.
I forgot about that quote. Yeah, that was the most depressive interview I've seen after the 5-1 drug we got. That was the biggest. By the way, I'm sacked. I've never heard an interview with just news going to be sacked.
I don't know where you all stand on this, but I personally think Mick McCarthy is a pretty poor manager. Yes. And through his 5.5 years at Wolves, he got promoted, but since then, with not unsubstantial financial backing, he has spent a lot of money. He has not developed the team at all, and they're exactly in the same position. And people are saying, "Oh, well, they were worse off last season." Well, yeah, but they went and spent $7 million on a centre half.
No, I agree. I think the Premiership's changing, and I think that the owners are beginning to realise that. I think if you look at the three managers that got sacked, Neil Warnock, Steve Bruce, and Mick McCarthy, what do they all have in common? They're all sort of like old, English guys who are meant to be, who can get a club promoted, but ultimately can't cut it in a really high quality league. Is the Premiership? Is it? Yes, exactly. But I think that for too long, the English game has relied on these sort of old guys because they can shout at players and they can maybe motivate players for short periods of time. But ultimately, when it comes to creating a longer term vision, I think they prove to be lacking. And I think now, as the Premiership gets more and more competitive, and great young managers like Brendan Rodgers and Paul Lambert are coming through and showing how it's done.
Tactically,
they're showing how to play in the Premiership, and those managers are gone obsolete, and they're being they'll be basically championship.
That's surely a good thing for English football.
Yes, I do think it is.
Look at the game last weekend.
Except none of the managers are English.
Well, but they will be.
But it'll be good for English football.
Look at the game last week, Swansea Norwich. Great advert for the game. 3-2, great game. Holt again taking centre stage. He's a great player. He's going to be at the Euros. I'm telling you.
Well, this is a side issue, but I do think Grant Holt should be in the England team for
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think for years, I don't like Kevin Davis. I think he's an ugly footballer who gets in terrible challenges and should have been
the most booked player. Surely, I think he's the most booked player in the Premier League history.
Yeah. Well, it should be. He's a disgrace, and because he's a nice person, which he obviously is, he seems to get away with it. But his behaviour on the football pitch is absolutely disgraceful. Not because he's diving or because he's spitting, but because he's endangering the careers of other footballers. But personally, I believe he should have been in the England team long before he actually got his one cap, because he is something completely different. And I think Grant Holt is exactly that, because not only is he a big unit, he can control the ball.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
Did England not give that a go with Dean Ashton? I mean, there was a
yeah,
time when
yeah,
Dean
yeah.
Ashton was given
Yeah.
that
I
one in
think
the
Grant
England
Holt
team.
and Dean Ashton are quite similar players. So
I think Grant Holt.
No, I don't think they. I'm not sure they've got room for him. If we're taking this seriously,
Which
we are.
Grant
Go
Holt.
on, name
well, there is
the strikers.
there's quite a few. There's quite a few. Just quickly, John. I think there's quite a few cases of people who are now in Euro 2012 contention. That I mean, Grant Holt is one of them, but there's plenty others that are just sort of popping out, and maybe in desperation, England are considering them.
Well, at the start of the
you
season, no one would have had Sturridge and Welbeck in their squad.
That's true.
But they
Oxlade, Chamberlain.
have to go.
Yeah, well.
But then I think he's a midfielder.
Obviously,
Oh, we're talking
I'd say
strikers,
probably
yeah.
2 out of those 3 are not going to be in the squad. Sturridge, Welbeck, and Oxlade Chamberlain. I'd say 2 of the 3 would not.
I think
make
2 of
it.
the 3 will be in.
I think they should, but I don't think they will be.
Mick McCarthy was sacked, and because that's what we're talking
We've gone
about.
back, sorry.
We've gone,
We've
we've gone
regressed.
here. Mick McCarthy, obviously, I mean, I think it was an excellent point you were saying, Callum, that the style of English manager that Mick McCarthy, epitomises, may be dying out in the Premier League. Who do you think Wolves will turn to replace him?
I mean, they're going to struggle to find. I mean, it would probably have to be a young Championship manager, I guess. I mean, they're going to. I think it's the timing's quite unfortunate for whoever it is because they've got no way to purchase anyone.
Well,
They're going to be dealing with the team that they have.
I read this morning that they have a short list of 3.
Yes,
3 being.
I've seen.
Have you seen this as well?
Yeah.
I haven't seen this.
Yeah.
so-
Short list of 3 being Alan Kirbishley, Neil Warnock, and Steve Bruce.
Yes, they're the 3.
Personally, you're joking.
Yeah,
No,
I'm just talking about that.
I think Kirbishley's a good manager.
Oh yeah, no. I'm not laughing.
No, it's just because the other 2 were the 2 we mentioned.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what's brilliant though about Alan Kirbishley? He pretends that he's going on to talk about an issue on Sky Sports News that's related to football at the moment, relevant issue. Yeah, I'm talking about. So where are you up to? Well, Wolves have sacked a manager, haven't they? So yeah, I'm up for it. Yeah. Did you come on to talk about the football issue? Yeah, I did. But yeah, Wolves. Wolves. Yeah, me. Yeah.
My number will go across the bottom of the screen now.
See, this is the thing that manager might become obsolete, but they're still going to be viewed for as maybe their only job they can be viewed for is keeping them up.
But
This
I
idea
think
of
Kirbishley
keeping them up.
is that kind of manager. I genuinely think Kirbishley is a very good manager who's been out of the game far too long.
I disagree. Unfortunately,
He kept Charlton mid-table
I
forever.
know he did, but I don't.
But
think
whether
he's-
that's good
I
or
don't-
bad.
Just the Wolves, I think maybe not.
I think it's good because Charlton were awful. It wasn't a good Charlton side.
Well, Charlton aren't a big club. They're
No,
not a
no,
big
no.
club, and he kept them.
Well,
and he
well,
would have kept West Ham would never
but-
have been in the problem if the difficulties they find themselves in now had they just not fallen out with Kirbishley.
Yeah, that's true.
He would have kept them in the division. Another English manager who finds himself out in the call, and this is not as strong a case as the Alan Kirbishley one, is John Gregory. John Gregory is a good manager. John Gregory is a good manager who, for some reason, has gone on a world jaunt.
Stop.
John Gregory is a good manager.
How?
For his work at Aston
Do you
Villa.
know you? David Ginola was on Goals on Sunday a few weeks back. And,
He's
Pep
always
Guardiola.
have you seen it? Have you seen
Oh, well,
when
they had one job.
Ginola got benched for a decent number of weeks from John Gregory because Gregory claimed he was overweight.
Unfit.
Yeah, and then talk. He's ripped.
Or was he just motivating Ginola?
Well,
Managerial masterstroke. John Gregory for England, basically, is what I'm saying. John Gregory for England.
No.
A third sacking of recent times, which when I heard it, I was just very confused, and it was Lee
Yes.
Clark being sacked by Huddersfield. And I know Clark has spent good money at Huddersfield. He hasn't gotten them promoted, but they're still in a promotion place, and
they're not. They're fourth.
Yeah.
well,
Fourth.
Promotion place.
playoffs
Oh, yeah.
for the promotion.
Stand corrected.
I just couldn't understand it at all.
Well, I mean, he's gone 9th, 6th, 3rd, and now he's 4th. And that's his record. And they've sacked him, and the reason was that the chairman said that because they still have a chance of promotion, still have a strong chance of promotion, and he's got his eye on that. So why you would need to sack Lee Clark in that case is...
And there were strong rumours today that they were going
questionable.
for Neil Warnock, who previously managed Huddersfield, which is just
Really?
depressing. I mean, yeah, no, we can't write off
See,
Warnock because he does get teams promoted.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I could actually see that being the reason. That's
No, I don't want to be. Yeah, no, I don't want to be harsh on Warnock because, yeah, as you say, he's got an incredible promotion.
I
record.
love Neil Warnock.
I don't. I love him, mate. I love him, mate.
I love Neil Warnock.
Nah, Colin Wanker.
But as
He's
a secret name.
He's too positive at the end of games. I think he's just too positive to the point where I think that he's just talking nonsense. He hasn't seen where at QPR he just didn't watch what had happened. never talked about how defensively shambolic
Yeah,
they were.
I
but
never said
discussed
he was
how-
a good manager. I just said I liked him.
Going back
Lee
to
Clark,
yeah,
Yeah,
going back to
sorry.
Lee Clark. Sorry, if you'll allow me to devil's advocate on all over you, I can see the logic in them sacking him. I think, although I think it's harsh, and I really like Lee Clark from him being a prop a Geordie like. But at the end of the day, they are in a very good position to go up, I should say, and this is probably going to be the last 6 months they have their wonderful striker Jordan Rhodes on board. Now, if they can't get promoted this season, then they're going to lose him, and who knows? They won't be able to replace him because he's been a complete goal pervert this season. But this is possibly their best chance to get promoted, and if they don't get promoted, then it's going to put them back a couple of steps. So if they can make a change to make that happen, make that more likely, I should say, then I can see why they're doing it.
I feel like I'm on the Huddersfield board because I'm convinced now.
Well, I think that's logical, but then I don't see how. I mean, sacking a manager that's got a team at fourth, what sort of effect does that have on the team?
Yeah,
I mean, you're talking
well,
about
he's clearly
you're seeing it.
Yeah, what sort of effect does that have on the rest? Again, we always say manager gets sacked far too early. Then this is probably one of the worst.
But I mean, and from what I mean, there was just everyone seemed to be shocked at it, and only because I mean he's in a very good position. I don't see they've just come out of the 43 match unbeaten run was probably had a lot of draws in there. Still a 43 match unbeaten run, and he's gotten stronger. He's gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. And this is they still have a great chance to make that run, and they're in that position because of Lee Clark. And I mean, it's mind-boggling to me.
Not just that, but he's one of the hottest young managers in England at the minute. Like clubs were interested in him, and the fact they could get. I know Huddersfield have money and they're being backed quite substantially, but they could get a reasonable fee for Lee Clark if, say, a Championship club, or I don't think this would ever happen, but maybe even a Premier League side would come in for him.
I think Championship club would definitely.
Oh yeah, no, I hope he goes on to a big club.
His statement's quite funny. Just how utter confusion for like how he was speaking.
No, that's just because he's a Geordie.
Oh, you
Can't understand the English language.
And we all know he's called Jigsaw because he goes to pieces in the box.
Well, maybe the board took on that and thought that he'd just go to pieces at the end of the season and wouldn't get him promoted. But I think that the other point here is that this would only be acceptable if they were hiring someone who was absolute cast iron promotion person. Who there's not. I mean, sure, Neil Warnock's got teams promoted and other managers have got teams promoted, but I mean, there's no sure thing at all in leagues like League One. So I mean, you have to be firing them for someone who is going to get them promoted 9 times out of 10, and there's no way they can. There's no way they can.
Never won promotion.
Does he not?
No.
Just
wow, the best. This I just have to say this just because I'm not going to fit it in anyway. Actually, no, I will fit it in the next part. What we're talking about, I will fit it in the next part. But yeah, so basically, my position is this: it was ridiculous to fire Lee Clark. I think it will have an adverse effect.
Seagulls and Ricochets realised that Simon Grayson was recently sacked by Leeds, but Leeds are a terrible club, and Simon Grayson is generally a pretty shit human being, so we're not going to speak about that.
I concur.
Part one.
I'm going with harsh.
No, I think that's great.
Fucking hate Leeds. I'm so happy to come to be.
I don't like Leeds, but I don't have anything against Simon
Grayson. He's a twat. He's an absolute twat, and his football is rank beyond belief. Rarely would I side with Ken Bates. And that man is just.
I share all your opinions on Leeds. I hate them. So much.
Fucking hate Leeds. This week saw the return of the Cup of Mushrooms when the Champions League kicked off once again. We're going to look at some of the games which have already been played and then some of the ties which are to come, and then who are our tips for the tournament, ignoring those pesky little teams of Barcelona and Real Madrid. First off, Zenit St. Petersburg beat Benfica 3-2. Ryan, I think you saw the goals in this game.
I did indeed.
What do you think of Zenit's performance?
I thought both teams performed really well. It's a great game. Second goal for Zenit. Great goal. Through in the box, 2 back heels. The finish just immaculate, just round the keeper. Great goal. Couple of goalkeeping blunders, but all in all, great game and a great advertisement of the Champions League. I think it'll be interesting to see when it goes back to Benfica who's the who's going to get through on that one. I'm not going to call that one. I think that'll be a really interesting tie.
Personally, I think Benfica have got the edge with a two away goals, taking it back to the Stadium of Light. I think they've got a great chance of knocking Zenit out. They've got some cracking players. Benfica, they're a real good team.
I know, but just because
Oscar Cardozo.
Well, not just Cardozo, but Pablo Aimar.
Pablo Aimar still is going.
Axel brilliant.
Great play, yeah.
And then Garay, who I think
Zincro, yeah.
Real Madrid could actually do with him at the minute because their choice at centre back aren't great. But I genuinely think
I don't know. I think Zenit will still give him a really good game. I think it's going to be really close. It's not going to be a walkover. But I thought it was a really good game. Two really good sides that are hard to pick between. But because it's Russia travelling away, not Russia, but obviously Zenit travelling away from Russia, then I think Benfica will go through, but it'll be a really good game, tough game as well.
The Russian teams are still on their winter break.
Exactly.
Got this odd 18th-month season. Switching to the spring calendar. Callum, you watched the AC Milan Arsenal game. What were your thoughts on this?
Yes. Humbling is the right word. AC were very good. Going forward, just incredibly dangerous. I think. When they have three characters like Robinho, Zlatan, and Kevin Prince Boateng up front, if all three of them hit song, then you're dealing with an unbelievably dangerous attack.
You think about Song didn't get injured?
No. But I thought that they looked. Arsenal barely didn't cause them any problems at all. Really, Arsenal were just toothless. Midfield, there was no sort of. There was nothing really.
Over the past 2 seasons, AC Milan have been their weakest performance have come against teams like Udinese and Napoli, where both teams who attack down the flanks with attacking wing backs. And Arsenal, who do play with wide players, they just did nothing the whole game. They could have had a 2v1 against the AC Milan fullbacks throughout the tie because Seedorf and then Emmanuelson and Nocerino, they're not really going to move out to support the fullback, and they just did none of it.
No, tried to go through middle with Arteta and Ramsey, just weren't up to it. And AC took their chances just unbelievably clinically. Zlatan Ibrahimovic had an incredible game. And the stat that I was going to say that was from last night was that he has won the championship with his last 8 seasons. His last 8 seasons, every single season he has won.
Apart from the ones that got stripped from United.
Apart from the ones he got stripped.
Unfairly stripped.
But
from the players' perspective, the players won those leagues. They deserve to hold their medals. I think the whole Calciopoli scandal, which is we could record a whole 3-hour podcast on the ins and outs of it. But I do think that the players deserve their medals.
You're just in cahoots with Moji. That's
Zlatan Ibrahimovic, do you think his performance the other night was so good? Do you think it'll finally put to bed this whole idea that he doesn't perform against English clubs, he can't perform on the big?
Well, he hasn't performed against English clubs, but when you're talking about English clubs, you're talking about some of the best teams in Europe, and they usually, Zlatan does come in and out of games quite often, and if he wants to play, he'll play. But I think the final point from last night was, I think it would serve as a wake-up call for Robin van Persie, because I think he just seeing a team against which he played and defeated in an Arsenal team 2 years ago, and much better, and when they just played beautiful counter-attacking football, to go there and just see the Arsenal team get bowled over like that, and to see no options on the bench except Thierry Henry, I think will be unbelievably disheartening for him, and might be the final nail in his Arsenal coffin. With his Arsenal coffin. with a summer.
Whenever he play league Arsenal, they get a coffin.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you just meant he was kneeling.
No, stop.
His anus.
Stop.
Am I right in saying that Zlatan? Okay. I'm not going to be quoted on this, but I've heard that goal last night was his second goal he's ever scored in a Champions League knockout game.
He doesn't have a good record.
He scored.
I thought his first goal against Arsenal. It was against Arsenal.
It was his third. He scored 2 against Arsenal.
Oh, 2 against. Yeah, that's right. His first goal was against Arsenal in that game.
So it's his second game, I think.
I don't know. That's why everyone says maybe a big game player. But although last night he did play very well, I'm not trying to take anything away from
John. Kevin Prince Boateng scored one of the goals of the tournament last night. This is a player who was rejected as not good enough for high rent at Tottenham, and also Sean. Rarely for Portsmouth. I think his spell at Portsmouth was good. I think people remember it differently to suit the narrative, but he's just so important to this AC Milan.
Yeah, I know. It's really weird. Like that he's gone to AC Milan, which was a transfer a wee bit out of the blue, and he's held in a place, and he seems to be a really integral part of that team. And the strike he hit last night was just absolutely. I mean, I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was quite satisfying because it didn't actually hit any part of the net. And clip the bar and then back stanchion, back out. Yeah.
I must admit, I was praying for that official on the line to have just been bored by his awful job and to not quite have noticed and just turn around and be what, and finally we could just get rid of those random people, those onlookers that don't deserve to be called officials.
Discussion for another time. John, I think you saw Bayer Leverkusen beat Barcelona.
Yeah.
What can we draw from this other than that Barcelona are really good?
Barcelona are good, aren't they? Messi scores. He scores a lot.
Who's that guy?
He's really small. But yeah, Leverkusen. To be fair to them, they didn't roll over, but I don't think Barcelona.
They could have got it back for 2-2 and it was post.
They nearly did, but I don't think Barcelona ever. I mean, once they got their away goal, I think they just played with the kind of freedom that a team that knows they're pretty much through.
They played within themselves, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And I don't think Leverkusen are a bad team. I don't think they're quite in the same free-flowing form as they were last year. But
well, if it changed managers, there's been a lot of problems with Robin Dutt, the new appointment only recently. His future seems relatively secure.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Ballack, of course, that transfer
that's been a bit of a shadow over the club. But
obviously, this wasn't a tie where we were expecting any big turn-ups, was it?
No, of course not. And we got what we expected.
Yeah, the final game played before we recorded this was Lyon 1, Apoel Nicosia 0. I think what we can take out of this game is that Apoel, they still have a chance of getting through to the next round, which is just phenomenal for the first Cypriot team to qualify through the Champions League group stages. Does the fairy tale story continue?
That is not going to be an easy game for Lyon.
Not at all.
It's a nightmare second leg.
It really is. Yeah, I'm sure they would have far rather. Well, obviously they'd have far rather come there with a bigger league, but I think it'll be interesting, that game, and look forward to it.
Okay, next week sees CSKA Moscow take on Real Madrid. I think we all agree that that's going to be a Real Madrid win.
Yes.
Cheska, they have a good squad, some truly exceptional players in that.
Doumbia.
Goodness
me, Doumbia.
Keisuke Honda. You look at Nessie if he's fit. Igor Akinfeev, he's been struggling with injury a lot recently. He's a very good player. Shenikov looks a very decent left back. But Real Madrid, possibly only second to Barcelona when it comes to favourites in this tournament.
Well, I mean, it's not even that you count them favourites. I mean, they're 7 points in a game in hand ahead of Barcelona.
Well, I mean, they'd
10
be
points.
10 points. Sorry.
I mean, they'd be favourites if they could just get the monkey off their back and El Clasico's beating Barcelona.
If they beat Barcelona.
Yeah, I know. It's you certainly wouldn't bet against them.
So we put a Madrid win in that game. Then Napoli take on Chelsea at the San Paulo.
Really looking forward to this.
How's this going to go?
I have a bet with a friend that Napoli will win over the 2 legs, and I still believe that. I haven't seen anything. In fact, Chelsea have got worse since we made that bet. And Napoli, I mean, they're still 8th in Serie A, aren't they?
They've not performed well in Serie A this season.
No.
It does seem that they are really concentrating on Champions League. They brought in a number of players to bolster their ranks, increase their squad, hoping that they could still go for the Scudetto, but also challenge for the Champions League. But the players who have come in haven't suited the roles they've been playing. Maybe that's just they need time to fit in, but that hasn't worked. So they're obviously gunning for Europe.
Yeah.
And I mean, Chelsea are on the ropes, and they are not going to be fancying going to LA to play a team with the attacking riches of Napoli.
Okay. Big result for Napoli, first leg, game over in my.
Well, see, I don't necessarily agree with that, because the beauty of Napoli is that they counter-attack better than possibly any team in Europe at this time.
Well,
and I think it might suit them.
Yeah, good point.
Playing at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah.
Well, more to the point, this is the biggest European side they've played in decades, frankly. So it's going to be absolutely huge for them. You know that it's going to be such a big occasion, and I hope the occasion doesn't get the better of them. But I think it'll be a really interesting game.
I honestly, strangely enough, I think Chelsea might edge it. I'm not sure why, but Champions League seems difficult because it's all the fact that that's what Roman Abramovich wants. He wants a Champions League. I'm not saying that has a big thing on the play.
The last chance of many of the players to actually win the tournament.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think Well, the Premier League's gone for them, obviously. Absolutely no chance of that. They're going to struggle to get in the Champions League, never mind win it. So I don't know. I think they might just edge it. Sorry about your bet.
No, I
think they might just at Stamford Bridge. That's the only thing.
There's usually a thing about the English teams that even when they've got difficult ties, usually do see them out. But I mean, it's just where are the goals going to come from?
Well, Drogba is back in time for this tie.
But I don't think
he's not got Torres. Oh wait, no.
I don't. I mean, Drogba, there was a brief spell where he looked like he might have been back to some sort of really good form, but he still hasn't been scoring goals this season. And Sturridge has gone off the boil a little bit, and Mata. I mean, Mata's a great player, but I mean, like we said, he's in a previous podcast, he's being played out wide on the left, might restrict him. So I think that Chelsea are just so off form. I'm struggling to see how they might bring up the goods against them.
Yeah, you'd maybe hope that with Drogba coming back from huge disappointment in the Africa Cup of Nations, Torres very much out of form. You think that Chelsea, it would have been great had they had spent the guts of £20 million on another really up and coming, one of Europe's hottest young players, strikers. And they have, but they refuse to play him in Romelu Lukaku. But why didn't he get a game? Why isn't he given his chance? Torres has been given more chances than a lot of players would have been. And yeah, his build-up play is good and he's running the challenge well, but he is a striker. He is the one striker in the system.
At the end of the day, it's just because he's not a big name and he's got pressure on him. That's it. That's the only reason I could honestly think of.
Well, last month or so, we've seen VS Boas actually acknowledge that Lukaku is still alive and is a viable alternative up front, which... I remember.
You say that, but if he thinks that, he would have the guts to actually maybe start him and have a go with him. But he's not doing that.
Do Chelsea still own Hernan Crespo? Shevchenko?
Mutu,
Pizarro.
Do they still get money off Mutu now and again? Is that
maybe we'll even see some teams in the next round of the UEFA Cup where Bal take on Bayern Munich. What are the chances of Bal getting through, even though they were kind of found this tie by Paul?
No chance.
Yep.
Well, no chance.
I think they wouldn't get out the good. If you're looking for a team outside Real Madrid and Barca,
that is the shout.
I disagree. Bayern have not been in good form recently.
Bayern don't look great.
And they're also Schweinsteiger has been injured again. He was suffering with injury before. He's just newly back and he's out injured again, and I don't know how long for. He is a big miss because often in that situation they drag Toni Kroos from behind Mario Gomez and put him into the centre of midfield where he does play very well, but he can't influence the game as much. They often bring Robin back into the side, and Robin, for whatever reason, is not playing for Bayern at the minute. He is not doing well.
I've not been convinced by Bayern in the handful of games I've watched in the season. I don't know. I don't. I think they will beat Bal, and you'd be very surprising if they didn't. But then Bal have done incredibly well to get this far. I used to say that they can't.
That, but that was when United were playing horrific.
But it's not just that they performed well against Benfica.
But
Otto Galati.
This is Bayern Munich. Maybe they won't go as far as I think, but they'll definitely.
I think they'll get through this simply because the motivation is so strong. With the final being in Munich.
I think Bayern. If they're off form in the league, I think it's only a matter of time until they get back on form, and they know how to play in the Champions League. They've lost in the German league before, and they've still got very, very far in the Champions League. I think there's a gap behind Madrid and Barcelona in terms of the Champions League and and I think Bayern are the only team that. It would maybe be sort of kicking about in the middle there. I mean, now City and United are both out. I think Bayern will comfortably go through against Bal.
The final tie in this round of fixtures is Marseille versus Inter Milan, Internazionale. How do we see this going? I think it's two very balanced sides.
Very interesting tie.
Marseille I wasn't overly impressed with when I watched them. The only game I've seen them was the game they had at home against Arsenal, which they just looked insipid. And Inter, well, they're coming back onto a game a wee bit.
It's interesting you say that because when the draw was made, Marseille were down in the dumps. They were playing very badly, and Inter Milan were terrible as well. But then they got Claudio Ranieri. They went on this big winning streak. But since the last month or so, Marseille finding form again. Not winning particularly attractively, but winning games and playing better and better as each week goes on. Inter Milan, they lost 4-0 to Roma. They drew, I think, 4-4 with Palermo, and they lost 1-0 to Novara the weekend just passed. I mean, that's a terrible result. Yeah. I make Marseille favourites for this tie.
You make Marseille favourites.
I think the only thing counting against them is the Andre and Jordan Ayew,
Yeah.
just back from the Champions League, and they're big players
Cup of Nations.
for the French, the Cup of Nations. What did I say?
Champions League.
That's the one.
Back into the Champions League.
Back in.
It's back with Continental. I would still make it's one of my favourites. Internationale. Sorry, that's
Standards.
yes, that's very careless of me. Sorry, that's me slipping into my Anglicization. But
Anglicization. There's a word for you.
but no, I would fancy Internationale for that. Still,
well, Ryan.
I think it's a 50-50 tie. I wouldn't have anyone favourites this one.
Yeah, I think it's close, but I think Inter at home for the second leg.
Marseille should re-sign Tyrone Mears. I think that's the
Tyrone Mears.
Yeah, they need to get him back.
And I think if we take anything from this week's podcast, is that Tyrone Mears once played for Marseille.
Mm.
John, what's going on in the website in the past week or so?
Oh, website. Well, if you've found this big bag of audio phlegm, then you've probably found your way to the website. So that means that you can go and have a look at all our wonderful articles. This week we've got African Cup of Nations, chat and banter and stuff as we were
There's not much banter in the article. I wrote it and
it's quite sombre.
Pretty sombre.
If you want a sombre article, African Cup of Nations article, then read Colin Logano. You've also got Ryan Chute's debut with his take on his glorious leader Jonathan Terry, and you also have a very good debut from Craig Angus, which is well worth a look about the wonderful man manager that is Derek McInnes. And articles coming up this week on Italy, on Rangers, and all the usual companies that you know.
John, your article will be up on Monday, is that right?
Every Monday, yep, that's me.
I'll have a European Football League review on the Tuesday, and then something silly and probably quite offensive on the Thursday.
Pure
Ryan,
offensive
you're
Thursday.
policing yourself at the minute.
I've got something because I've got a few long journeys back to Manchester, and I'll definitely be writing one.
Yeah.
Not sure what at the moment, but in
Keep
the
an eye out
meantime,
for
keep
Ryan.
an eye out.
Maverick.
Callum, I can't help but notice. Still no.
Get to make my debut and
No.
write it. Well, I'm just waiting for the opportunity.
Well, still
Tell
enjoy
him
your
funny,
beautiful,
you
He's
beautiful voice.
put in the effort in training. He's waiting. He's trying to catch the gaffer's eye.
Well, he has.
the engine.
To be fair, Callum has written many articles for the website, but we couldn't publish any of them just for good taste. Most of them involve
Yeah.
kind of
There was a lot of drawings on them.
a lot of slasher literature based around caravan trips involving Louis Suarez and Ron Greenwood,
Oh, there goes my article.
Thomas Solberg.
Thomas Solberg, and 12-inch dildo.
I'd love to
That's
comment,
the end
but,
of this week's Seagulls and Ricochets. Thank you for listening. If you have, why?
You've lost.
Generally, there's 2 episodes, and if you have listened, it's not that good. If we keep going, maybe check in again at episode 12. But go listen to the Football Ramble. It's really good. It is really good. Football Weekly.
I quite like the game as well. I like the game.
Yeah. Thanks for
How many
listening.
podcasts do you listen to, John?
Jeff White's Hometown Show.
That was Seagulls and Ricochets with Ryan, John Callan, and Callan Steedman, and yours truly, Colin Bulgaro. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Good night.